A Family Disgrace by Patrick Fay. On the last Sunday of August, I drove my mother to the local parish fete. I stopped at a box with the usual Connolly and Le Carre. I noticed an old book wedged into the bottom left-hand corner. Poetry and Prose of William Blake. Inside the tattered cover was an inscription that simply read, "Enjoy." The head of the local ICA approached. "Can I help you?" "How much?" "They are 3 for €1." I handed over the coin and walked away. "You can choose 2 other books." I pretended not to hear. I sat in my car and waited for my mother and read some of William Blake's shorter poems. As I got halfway into the book, it sprang open to reveal a stained, white, unopened envelope. I could feel a perfectly folded letter inside. I examined the envelope again before carefully tearing it open. I pulled out a handwritten letter. It read, "Forgive me, for I knew not. For I found it an easy profession to dance with the man in black. We lay together many times." Then Blake's verse. "O rose, thou art sick, the invisible worm that flies in the night, in the howling storm." Then back to the letter. "Your repenting daughter, Kate." I reread the letter many times. I got out of the car and walked back to the bookstall. Where did these books come from? "They are donations from members of the parish." But where did this box come from? It came from the parochial house up the road. Later that evening, I drove up to the parochial house. I rang the doorbell and waited. In my hand, I had the book with a letter between its leaves. An old man in a stream vest opened the door. "What is it?" "I want to speak to a priest." "I am a priest. Forgive my attire, I was on my way to bed, but do come in." "I'm not sure why I'm here." "I can see there is something troubling you. I'll make you a cup of tea." I walked into the house and followed him into the kitchen. It was old, but clean. I took the chair nearest the door while he put on a copper kettle. There was a smell of air freshener, which I presumed was to cover up the damp. A clock ticked loud on the wall. "Now, tell me, what is troubling you?" he said, placing a mug of tea and a packet of plain biscuits in front of me. "Did you know Kate?" I said. "Kate who?" "The Kate who killed herself years ago." "What are you talking about?" "I am talking about one of you bastards having your wicked way with a young girl. That girl had a child. That girl couldn't live with the shame. Listen here, young man. Tell me where this is coming from or leave." I held up the book. "Do you recognize this?" Putting on a pair of glasses, he reached out. "Not so fast. Do you recognize it?" "Yes, I know the work of William Blake. I have a book like it in my study." "So this is your book?" "No, my book is in my study." "I'm afraid not. I bought this at the bookstall today, and it came from this house." "What bookstall?" "At the parish fete." "Ah, the curate gave some of his old books and some of yours." "So what if he did?" "What has this to do with—" "What did you say her name was?" "Kate." "Kate," he repeated. He reached for the book again. This time I let him take it. He then took the letter from the envelope and read it. When he finished, he replaced it and handed the book back to me. "I am quite tired and want to go to bed now," he said. "Is that all?" "I'm afraid so. I don't recognize it." He got up and led me to the door. I went outside and he double-locked it behind me. I went and got into my car. I sat there for some time trying to make sense of what had just happened. I was none the wiser. I reached to turn the key in the engine when the side light of the house went on. The old priest emerged in a cassock. He walked across and entered the church by the sacristy door. He couldn't wait to go to bed a few minutes ago. What's he up to? I quietly got out of my car. I cursed the gravel under my feet. The sacristy door was ajar. I pushed it in. The old priest was standing at a table. He had glasses on, and he was examining a large book open beside him. "Can't you leave me be?" he said angrily. "I'm just curious," I said. "Well, don't be." "What are you looking for?" "Kate. Kate." "Yes, Kate. In a book. It's the parish's record of births, deaths, and marriages. Can I help?" That book was my mother's. Her name was Kate. I was brought up by a woman in the parish. She had led me to believe that I was an orphan. This was not unusual in those days. The world was at war, food was scarce. I got told very little about my family until one day a car arrived to take me to see a man they told me was dying. I arrived at the rector's house of the neighbouring parish. A woman brought me to the bedside. We were left alone. It came as a shock to find out that this man, the rector, was my father. He explained to me that he had loved my mother, but she was a Catholic and of no standing. He explained that she was 16 when she became a scullery maid to the house he grew up in. He, at the time, having turned 25, was just finished his studies when she fell pregnant. The family claimed it was better if the girl was shunned and the child raised by the housekeeper as her own. He stood by and let it happen. Only days after the baby was born, her body was found. The girl was my mother. Her name was Kate. He told me all this as if I was an adult and handed me that poetry book as something to remember her by. I never opened it. I should have. But that day haunted me. He took off his glasses and cleaned them with a crumpled handkerchief. "Father, I'm sorry. There is pain in that letter. It riled me to do something." "Pain? You don't know anything about it," he said and put the glasses back on. "I need to find her." The hours passed as we calculated ages, guessed dates, and cross-referenced books against ledgers. We continued to work in silence until eventually we found her entry. Catherine Connolly, aged 17. She was buried outside the wall of the church. She was with the others who were not entitled to be in consecrated ground. We walked to her graveside. The old priest looked down at a simple marker. I placed my hand on his shoulder. His voice trembled. "O Rose, thou art sick."